Hi guys, welcome back to the Tearing It Up podcast. Hello, episode 8. Guys, as you can tell if you're looking at the video right now, I'm still recording from my mattress on the floor. I just feel like last week's episode I recorded from this and I was like, that just felt so comfy and chill, and I just kind of felt like I just felt really comfortable here. And sometimes when I'm in the studio, I feel a little bit uncomfortable because it's not like my space. It's not like my safe space, my home. So I was like, you know what? I actually really liked how that episode went. So I'm going to record again from my mattress on the floor today, just because I still feel like I haven't had time to go into the studio and record and have my life back to normal. But this week, it's actually feeling a lot more normal than it was last week. Last week, I don't know if you could really tell from that episode, I was definitely in a funk. I feel like I had some negative moments in that episode. I was not feeling my best last week, and I think it's just a multitude of things. It's like this big life change that happened, and adjusting to that, haven't been feeling the best physically and really mentally recently due to, I think, just like lack of exercise and drive. I've been feeling really lazy, and the annoying thing about like ADHD is like you're not necessarily lazy, like it's just your fucking brain that makes you this way. And it's really hard to like control it. And yeah, I'll like sometimes just take the easy route. Like, oh, you know what? I don't want to exercise today. And then I just know that it makes me feel worse throughout the day. And then I feel bad about myself. And it's just like a bad cycle. So I've been doing a lot of that where I was just feeling really lazy. I wasn't really getting ready as much or like taking care of myself. And it just is crazy how much taking care of yourself affects your mental health. Like I know we all know this, but today I got up and I worked out at 7 and I had a breakfast and I showered and I got ready and I'm like, bitch, you're fine. You're fine. Like you don't need to go make an appointment with your psychiatrist right now. You just need to take care of yourself. But I do have an appointment with my psychiatrist actually. So maybe I need both, but I'm feeling a lot better this week. So I'm excited to record today. And I just want to say, guys, thank you for all your nice messages and feedback on last week's episode. I got a handful of DMs of girls just being like, oh my God, I relate so hard to that episode. Like your mid-20s are so hard. 25 and 26 have been just like such rough years of figuring out yourself. And so many people resonated with the feelings that I was feeling, which sometimes it's so hard for me sometimes to know whether I'm like isolated in the way I feel or if everyone feels that way. And it seemed like a lot of other girls also felt the same. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for your nice messages. Before we get into today's topic, I'm trying to think of if I have any updates from the last week. So we got our first pieces of furniture today. The delivery guys just left. I got a little like black sideboard situation that I'm going to use in our little new like bar area. And we got a new coffee table. It's like this beautiful white cement looking coffee table. So our first pieces of furniture are coming in this week, and then tomorrow we have like our dining table, TV stand, a lot of stuff getting delivered. The bed comes this week, the nightstands come this week, and then next week I think the couch might come. So it's all coming together, and I think that's also like making me feel better because I'm like, finally there's like furniture in this place and it feels more like home. Let's see what else. This past weekend, let's recap it really quick. So Friday night, what happened? Once I finished working, I got ready. I went on TikTok Live for a little bit. I never go on TikTok Live. I need to do it more, but it was actually really fun. And it's so different than like posting on TikTok. Like you're literally in real time talking with everyone. And it was really fun. So if you joined my live, it was fun. And I loved getting to chat with you guys a little bit and answer some questions. But went on TikTok Live, got ready, met up with my friend Sarah. Sarah's one of my best friends. You're going to hear about her a bit in this episode, actually. She is the first friend I made when I moved to Austin. So we see each other. We try to see each other about once a week. And she's actually getting married in a month. So she's a very busy woman. But we got dinner at ATX Cocina. ATX Cocina is one of my favorite restaurants in Austin. I know that's basic. I know it's a basic reg. I know a lot of people like it. And it's also very overpriced, but it's just so good. Like it's good for a reason. Their margaritas are so bomb. So we got 2 margaritas. The ATX is my favorite. And the esquites, the machete, which is like this like grilled taco situation, the guac, and the tuna tostadas. So good. We just caught up on life, caught up on her wedding planning, whatever. Then we went over to Numero 28. Numero 28 is a very special place to me. So guys, ATX Cocina and Numero 28 might be 2 of my like top favorite places in downtown Austin. So I have this strong love for Numero 28, okay? The people who work there are the nicest souls. I swear, they are so, so, so nice. The owner is so cute. It's not like one of those trying to be bougie, fancy Austin restaurants that's like trying to be something that it's not, and everything is so ridiculously overpriced and you get like a tiny little cocktail for $18. Like, it's just like a homey Italian spot. They're not trying to be something they aren't. It's cozy inside. The ambiance is always right. The food isn't like, holy shit, this is the best Italian food I've ever had, but it's just like good. It tastes like homemade cooking to me. And there's a lot of Italian waiters that they hire, so I love that because it just like adds to an effect. Shout out to Alessio. I love him. He's the best. He's one of the waiters at Numero. So anyways, we went there and we sat at the bar. We love to sit at the bar, and their espresso martinis are fucking bomb. So we got espresso martinis and we just chatted and had an amazing night. And then Sarah is the definition of an early bird. She's a couple years older than me. She's getting married. She's in her like wifey era. She likes to go home like by 10. Sarah goes home. I then come back to our place. Rafa has a few of his friends over. We're pre-gaming. We have these like frozen hot dotty margs in the freezer. So we're having little margs. I'm putting little floaters on them. At this point, I'm like, I haven't drank in the sense of like getting like drunk in a while. I love to have like 2 cocktails, maybe 3, but I typically don't go over that these days because holy shit, I'm incapacitated the next day. But I was getting drunk this night. Like, I was like, fuck it. And it's just like, I feel like I hadn't been out in so long because we were traveling and then we were moving, and then I just feel like I haven't been out in so long, and I was like, I need to go out. So definitely a little bit tipsy. Actually, no, I was definitely drunk. And so, yeah, we're pre-gaming. It's me, Rafa, a couple of his friends. We're having a good time, music. Then we call an Uber to Concourse Project. Now, Concourse Project is like this big warehouse in Austin, out by the airport kind of. It's this big warehouse where they have live music. Obviously, it's like DJ sets most of the time. It's usually always like DJs, house music, EDM. It's typically like electronic music specific. This place can either be like really fun or it can be a little bit spooky. Like, there's times Rafa's taking me to shows there where like there's like people in ski masks and alien masks, and it can be a lot, for someone like me I'm not too involved like in the raving community. So sometimes I've been there like when it's like an intense show, and it can be a little overwhelming because there's like people in costumes and the beat is like in your throat, and it's very dark and there's a lot of people and it's enclosed, like it's not an outdoor setting. It can be a lot. However, this show, we went to Francis Mercier. I believe he's a Haitian DJ, kind of like Afro house vibes, I think. Hope I'm right on that. And Rafa's actually worked with his team. So Rafa has a TikTok called Melodic Beats where he shares like his music because he loves like house music and Afro house. And he actually has worked with Francis Mercier's team to help promote some of his songs before. So it was actually really cool. So Rafa got to like meet his manager and whatever, and because he knows kind of the team a bit. So we went to that concert, so fun, danced the night away. We stayed basically almost till it ended. We stayed until around 2 a.m. dancing. I actually met a few people in the crowd that follow me on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and that were like, oh my God, Darren, and it was so cool. So fun getting to meet some of y'all in the crowd if you are listening to this. Actually, one girl did come up to me and was like, oh my God, I love the podcast. So shout out to you. Thank you for saying hi. That was so fun. I got to meet some girlies, dance, like a good just night out at a concert feels so good. Like, I think whenever you're feeling sad, go to a concert, even if you go alone. And if it's music you like it's just so fun. And sometimes I forget that because I like don't always want to like spend money on tickets, and like I don't really think to look, but it was just such a good night, and it's so fun to go with Rafa and dance and shit. So anyways, we did that, got home at 2 a.m, fell asleep by 3. We were probably asleep, like around 3. Woke up the next morning, had to get ready immediately and drive to San Antonio. And then we spent all day in San Antonio with Rafa's family because his brother is getting married. So it was his brother's wife's like bridal shower. We had a big barbecue, aka like carne asada, at Rafa's house with her family, with the bride's family, and then Rafa's family. Good family time. It clocked in. We were there all day long. I got to hang out with Rafa's sister, who I miss so much. She lives in LA now, so we don't get to see each other very much. Family day, and then came back here. Rafa's sister actually slept over, so we all had to sleep over. I'm very close with Rafa's sister. Like, we have a really strong like friendship outside of the relationship that we have just because she's my boyfriend's sister. So I love when she's in Austin because we just get to hang, and we're also like the same age, and we have a lot of similar interests. So we're we're like besties when we hang out. Rafa actually gets annoyed because he's like, you guys are so annoying when you hang out because we both just shut our brains off and make Rafa like do everything. And he's like, it's hard enough for me to do it with Taryn, and then Annie does it too. And now Annie and I are both just like, we're not figuring anything out. Like we rely on Rafa to get us around. So yeah, and then she spent the night, and then Sunday we spent all day. I spent helping Rafa unpack, organize his clothes. We did the grocery haul. We went to Home Depot. We hung. I ordered this cat bed on Amazon that mounts to the wall for Whiskey, because Whiskey doesn't like to sleep in bed with us. Cowboy loves to sleep in bed with us, but Whiskey doesn't. He likes to have his own bed but still be in our room. So I bought this really cute wall bed that mounts to the wall. And so my brother came over. He helped me mount that because we legit needed like a stud finder and a drill and all this shit. God damn, it was hard to hang. And Whiskey's actually laying in it right now. I was like all housekeeping shit yesterday. Went on a little run, got my favorite latte, which, oh my God, this has been circulating social media, so I'm not the first to talk about this latte, but the Meteor Cafe on South Congress has such a fucking good latte. Two of them I love. The cereal milk latte is bomb. Go try the cereal milk latte if you haven't. And then the second one is they have Franck's, which is this bomb nut milk that's made with like dates and cinnamon, and it is so good. I can't remember if it's like cashews or what nuts it is, but it's so good. And they have Franck's. Get a Franck's latte, but you have to go early because they sell out of it, because the girlies have just been obsessed with it and it's selling out, and it's like people are posting on social media, and so everybody's, I feel like, going to get the Franck's, me included. But get a Franck's latte. It's so bomb. So went and got that. Just had a chill, relaxing day. I honestly didn't really post much on social media all this weekend. I feel like last week I was on my phone so much that I just like sometimes on the weekends I just completely disconnect. Like I really try to take a break. I respond to texts and that's it. Like I don't even really scroll. I didn't really scroll or post or make content this weekend, and it just always feels good on the weekends to like sometimes decompress from it, because if I'm on my phone too much, my mental health actually goes to shit. Like it goes to shit, like how you guys were hearing in last week's episode when I was like saying that I'm struggling with like comparing myself, comparing my life, comparing the person I want to be on to others on social media. If I'm on my phone too much, I start doing that, and it's a dark, deep hole. And I'm so happy that the weather's getting better in Austin, because I can start going out and touch grass again. Go to Zilker. I just love the parks here in Austin, and I haven't been all summer because you'll actually like fry to a crisp if you go out right now. But the weather's gonna get better soon, and I'm excited to go to the parks again. Excited for ACL. I'm going weekend 1. That's not this weekend, but next. Holy shit, it's coming up so fast. I picked out some outfits already. I'm starting to make some inspo, some mood boards. I'm going to make a TikTok about that this week, because people have been like, wait, what is the ACL outfit inspo? And I need to make a video about that. So I'm going to do that this week. And now I'm here recording for y'all. And I just love doing the podcast. Truly, it's like such a highlight of my week. Sometimes it can be hard for me to think of like, okay, how do I want this to go? What's the structure going to be? But every time I produce it and put it out there and I get feedback from you guys, I'm just so happy, because I feel like this is just my way to share and chat with you guys and connect with you guys on a deeper, more like intimate level than I can just on my social media. So I just love doing the podcast. It's really fun. Last thing about the apartment, but we finally got our sheets, like our bedding in, and oh my God. So it's from Cozy Earth. It's these like bamboo sheets and like duvet cover and stuff. And it is so luxurious and soft. I'm obsessed. We did get a different insert for the duvet, because this one that we got, I think we're going to do like a more like fluffy, like kind of down comforter. But right now, guys, these sheets are incredible. Like I'm so cozy right now. I love Cozy Earth. I'm so glad I went with Cozy Earth, because I was looking at a few different options. I had Brooklinen prior, and I do like my Brooklinen a lot, but these are just like silky smooth. All right, so on today's episode, I wanted to talk about moving to Austin, Texas. I want to bring us back, let's say a little over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now, to my story of moving to Austin, what that was like, why I decided to leave my hometown, kind of what was going on there, moving into my first apartment, making my first friends, adjusting to being 2,000 miles away from home. I wanted to talk about that today. So I wanted to share with you guys the story of how that went. I actually tried to record this episode a couple months ago, and I like sat down and I was like, my brain like for some reason stopped working, and it was like, I can't even remember like that time of my life. Like I feel like I blacked it out. But then I've done a lot of reflecting since I tried to record, and I'm like, okay, I feel more ready to talk about this now. I don't know why, but like, sometimes when you're just trying to recall part of your life and you're like, I don't fucking remember. It's so annoying. But then yet my brain remembers that Rafa doesn't like pickled onions on his damn burrito. So first we need to bring y'all back. So, okay, well, I've been living in Austin for 3.5 years now, about maybe a little bit under that. And before I moved to Austin, I lived in Oregon. Lived in Oregon my whole life. I grew up there. I grew up in the same town, the same home, the same community. I went to high school there, obviously, and then I went to college in Oregon. Now, I'm from a kind of small-ish suburban town outside of Portland, Oregon, but I went to college in Eugene, Oregon, which is about 2 hours south of where my house is. Very nice because you can just commute home so easily, like on the weekends and stuff. I was so set on not staying in state when I first thought about going to college, because I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here. But honestly, looking back, I'm so glad I stayed in state. One, because it was a lot easier to make friends since I already knew a lot of people at the school. And then two, because it was so nice that I could just like easily go back and forth from home when I needed to. I graduated a semester early with a degree in advertising. I was like dead set my senior year and my junior year summer. Like I was interning, I was doing everything I could to like build this resume because I knew when I graduated, like I wanted to get out. And so I had interned all of my junior year summer at Nickelodeon, and then all of senior year I was part of like a extracurricular things within the advertising school, like a competition team for advertising. And then I did a few internships, and like I really tried to build out my resume so that I had like something to show for myself when I graduated. 2 months leading up to graduation, I'm just like applying. And at this time, I'm dating my ex-boyfriend who also was graduating around the same time I was. And he said that, one day he was like, I think I have a job opportunity in Austin. And I had heard pretty positive things about Austin, but it definitely wasn't like top of my list for places that I wanted to move. I really wanted to go to New York because I was supposed to intern at Nickelodeon in New York the summer before, and COVID took that away. So I really wanted to go to New York because I was like, I need to redeem myself for not being able to do that internship in person. I'm honestly pretty glad I didn't, because I don't know if New York is for me now looking back, but I was set on New York. I was like considering California. I was looking at, the typical options. Like I feel like post-grad, so many people either move to California or New York, at least where I'm from. Austin was not top of my list. But when my boyfriend at the time, who I was obviously very much committed to, I was really, really wanting this relationship to work, said he had a job opportunity in Austin. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to look at Austin because I'd heard good things. So I'm like applying aggressively that 2 months. Nothing's biting. I'm trying to like message people on LinkedIn, begging them to talk with me, anything. Nothing's biting. Nothing's working for me until I finally just start researching like marketing and advertising agencies in Austin. Please, like, hire me. So I find this one, it's a little bit smaller. It's more of like a local agency. And they were like, if you're interested in our like entry level roles, email this email and send all your stuff. And so, I did that. I sent the email. I did like a cover letter. I did all this shit, and they get back to me, whatever. I go through the interview process, and the interview process was pretty intense. I had to do like this whole project and whatever. And I get offered this, they called it like the residency program, where you kind of have like a year working at the agency. You kind of test out a few different roles. You see what you like, what you don't like. And then after a year, your residency can turn into like a full-time position that you obviously make more money, whatever, a more like permanent type position. They offered me this as like a client account manager sort of deal. And I was like, all right, sounds great. And at the time when they offered me the amount that they were paying me, I like had no concept of money because I'd only ever worked at like Dutch Bros, where like I was making maybe $300 a paycheck or whatever. And so when they offered me this amount, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like a ton of money. In my head, I was like, this is going to be great. But then of course, once I actually got to Austin and started paying bills and living, I was like, holy fuck. But yeah, I will say it was like, the amount was in the low 30s. So yeah, it was definitely a hard wage. But at the time I was like, fuck it, I'll take anything to get my foot in the door. And I accept that job. I graduate college like a week after, and I moved to Austin like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later. And I just feel like I love Oregon so much, and I miss it so much. And I love that I moved away because I have this whole new appreciation for it that I didn't have before. And I just want to say something that like, you don't need to necessarily move away from your hometown or move halfway across the country to feel like you're doing something with your life. Granted, it was something I did need, but I do feel like there's all this pressure, especially post-grad, to like find a job and move across the country and start this new life and make new friends. And if you just stay in your hometown, you're a loser. I just want you to know that's not the case. I feel like I thought that a little bit when I first graduated. I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of here, or what the fuck am I going to do with my life? But then I actually, like, as I've met more people in my 20s and I've matured a lot since then, like I've met a few people that like did stay in their home state and they're so thankful that they did. They're near family. They have their friends there. They're happy there. Like it should not, you don't move somewhere or try to make this big change just because you feel like you have to. Do it because you genuinely want to and you really do think that it's going to be what's best for you. But I do think there's cases where people stay at home and they're near family and they're near their friends and that is what's best for them. And then they move away and they're like, fuck, why did I do this? And honestly, there's like every week I'm like, fuck, I wish I was home. I wish I was back with my family. Like it is such a toss up of how I feel. Like I'm obviously so grateful and happy to be here and I'm so glad I did it. But there's days where I'm like, damn, like all of me wants to be back. So just remember, you don't need to move away from your hometown to be worthy or to feel like you've accomplished something. You can accomplish just as much right where you're from as you can in a new state. But I will say moving away helped me so much in just my independence, my maturity, and finding myself and spending more time with myself. It really helped my relationship with my parents. Like being away from them made our relationship so much stronger because, you know, we weren't constantly like breathing down each other's necks and fighting and stuff like that. But I very much felt like, okay, I've been in my small suburban town all of COVID. I was living at home all of COVID in quarantine with my parents. I was just desperate to like have a change. And where I'm from, for whatever reason, is a place where just a lot of people move once they graduate or whatever. I feel like, you know, if you're from somewhere like LA or Austin or whatnot, like so many people stay. But at least for whatever reason where I'm from, everyone was moving. All my best friends were moving. And I was just like, fuck, I'm either going to be alone here with my family or I need to get out of here. And I think that I had a cheat in a way in this whole situation because I did move here with a boyfriend and that obviously softened the blow of moving away a lot. And so I do think I had a little cheat there that not a lot of other people get. A lot of people do have to move completely alone. And I think I still would have been able to do that, but I think it definitely would have been harder. So I do have to preface that I'll never forget packing up my room and my mom like being so sad and so emotional. It just like broke my fucking heart because my parents they're older. I've told you guys this, they're a bit older and it made me feel so fucking guilty for leaving because I'm like, they're getting older. I'm their youngest daughter. I'm very involved with my parents. So I just felt so fucking guilty. Like my mom obviously supported me. My parents supported me, but like, I know they deep down did not want me to go. And it was a guilt that I battled for a long time. But as much as I love my parents and I love my family, like you can't put your life on hold all the time for others. And I just felt like I had to do this. So they dropped me off at the airport. That was such a hard day. So I got on the plane. Keep in mind, again, I've never been to Austin in my life. I have no idea what it looks like. I had watched a few YouTube videos of like car driving around Austin and it like would put a camera on the car and I would like look at the streets and be like, okay. But I had never been here. So the plane lands and it's nighttime. So obviously don't really see anything yet. I had signed a lease at an apartment. Again, sight unseen, but it was a newer building, so I knew the unit would be newer, and it looked really nice. We'd gotten a virtual walkthrough, whatever. We show up at the apartment. We luckily had some furniture already delivered, so we start setting up the bed and everything like that. Very surreal feeling being in Austin. I'm with my ex at the time. We're obviously super excited. This is like a holy shit moment. And our lives in Austin begin then and there. And I feel like this part of my life was probably the biggest change I'd ever been through ever. I just graduated college. I was moving in with a guy for the very first time. We were living in a 600 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment that at the time I was like, you know, when we first talked about living together, I was like, oh yeah, we just need like a 1-bedroom, right? Like that's what couples do. Then we moved in and we were like, oh fuck, like this is tight. Like it was a small apartment for 2 people. And yeah, I think I've talked about that on the podcast before, but big transition, like moving into this tiny little space with another person. I'm in a new city. I have a new job that I just started a couple weeks before. He also had a new job. Like there was so much going on. It was very overwhelming, I have to say. I also had no friends. I didn't know a single person in Austin when I moved here. There wasn't, since I had graduated college a little early, there was like no one from my college that lived there yet. No one I knew from home. So I was very much alone in this. But again, I had the cheat of having my boyfriend that first year, because it definitely like it softened the blow of how scary this change was. And so from there we start furnishing the apartment. I had like literally no money at this time, like broke college student. I was making a little bit of money from my job, but like barely enough to like afford furniture and the rent. So did not have a lot of money. All of our furniture at the time was like either Facebook Marketplace or IKEA. It was like nothing. We were not investing that much money into furniture. I think I bought like a $400 mattress from Walmart. It was like the most uncomfortable mattress ever, but we put a mattress topper on it. So we're kind of starting like the first 2 months, I feel like, was just building our lives, and it was building furniture, getting the apartment set up, starting to get accustomed to my job and what that entailed. And that was definitely a big, I feel like, slap in the face, because I don't know what I expected. Like I didn't even really know what like a marketing agency was, but holy shit, that time of my life I look back on and I'm like, what? I just remember being so stressed and up and lost and confused and just pure, like it was such a difficult year, but I'm so fucking thankful for it, because working at that agency and working at a fast-paced environment like that, I learned so much. And if it wasn't for that job, I don't feel like I would be where I am today. But you know, college just it doesn't prepare you for the real world. I'm sorry, or at least my program didn't. I liked it, but half the time we were like doodling advertisements and fucking billboards and making a little flow chart. Like it did not prepare me at all to be thrown into like a fast-paced marketing agency startup, small team. I'm managing client accounts, I'm managing money. Like nothing in college prepared me for that. So that first like 6 months, I'm trying to adjust to this role. I'm having like mental breakdowns on a regular basis, because I just, you know that feeling when you're at work and you just feel like you have no idea what you're doing, and you wake up every morning with so much anxiety because you're like, I don't know how to do my job. What are people going to ask of me today? How am I going to figure it out? That was how I felt. Like it was very much like you're a fish and they just throw you in the pond and they're like, good luck. And this company was very patient with me, and they definitely like listened to me when I needed it. But at the same time, I was very much just like fast-paced startup environment. Like anyone who has worked at a startup knows what I mean, especially in an entry-level role. Like you're just tossed into it. There's no hand holding. There's no month-long onboarding session. Like it's like, all right, let's go. It wasn't like I hated my job. It was more just like constant fear and imposter syndrome. And like I would get on these client calls with these companies that were paying us money, and they would ask me questions and I wouldn't know it. And I would just have so much anxiety. And when it came to my social life in Austin to begin with, at first it was really just myself and him, which began to feel quite isolating, which I also think was something that caused problems in our relationship. Is like we definitely developed kind of a dependency thing where we were spending a lot of time together. Like I said in that moving in together episode, like I didn't really know how to go to Target and places by myself anymore. Like I did everything with him, and since this was a new city and I didn't know anyone, I just felt like I had to do everything with him. But my social life eventually took a good turn. The first 2 or 3 months were very isolating, and I pretty much just poured all of myself into work and trying to figure out my job and trying to get the apartment ready to be like lived in. And I also got a cat, which helped me a lot. But when I was at work, I decided like, okay, I'm really going to start trying to make friends with my coworkers. I'm not really doing anything socially at the moment. So like, I think my best bet is my coworkers. And that's where I met my two closest friends when I first moved here. My best friend, Sarah, who I've talked about, and my friend, Mary Beth. She ended up moving away. But those were my first two friends in Austin. And I think when you move somewhere, and I've noticed this with a lot of my friends who also have moved away and gotten jobs, a lot of their first friends are also at work. And I think if you can find maybe a startup or a younger company or a big tech company, like, I don't know, like Oracle, for example. People make so many friends at Oracle. But like companies like that where they hire young people, it's a great place to start with making friends. And it's easy because like you can just start initially with talking about work, and then it can lead into like, hey, do you want to grab a drink tonight? And that's exactly what happened. Like I just started talking to them as coworkers, and then I'd be like, let's get lunch today. And then it eventually like evolved into friendships. So the friendships really started initially at work, and then, occasionally we'd go out together. And so I started to have like a little bit of a social life, and that felt really good. However, let's say we're like 7-8 months into me living in Austin. I have my two close friends, but again, I don't see them all the time. They both have boyfriends. They both have their own lives. So I'm seeing them maybe once a week. I have my boyfriend, and I start to feel like I don't think Austin is for me. I'm just like, you know what? I only have two friends here. I don't feel like I have much of a social life outside of that. I felt like I was just spending so much time with my significant other. And we were just like becoming dependent on each other. Things were not necessarily going the best in that relationship. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to live in Austin for a year and I'm going to move home. And I just thought like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if it's for me. I loved that it was a young city. I loved that people were super active here. I loved that there was so much to do and there was so much good food. And I did love all these aspects of it, but you can live in a super fun and amazing city, but still feel very alone. And like, you're just never going to make friends and it's never going to feel like home. And it very much did not. That first year was like, it was just rough. I was like, I don't even make enough money to be able to go out on the weekends. I don't really make enough to like go out to dinners regularly. Like, we would every now and again, but like it wasn't, I didn't feel like I had the means to like go out and do things socially and buy concert tickets and do all that stuff at the time. And this is when I was like, okay, I think I'm going to move home. So I literally went back to Oregon that Christmas and I looked at apartments and I was planning to move home with my boyfriend at the time. He actually was looking into getting a job back home in Oregon because he also was kind of like, I think I want to leave Austin. He ends up getting a job back in Oregon. He's like, all right, so I'm going to move back when the lease ends. And he's like, are you going to come with me? Like, I assume. And I had this moment in my head where I was like, the safest option here is to move home, to be near my family, to be back there, to be with him. But then like, there was this part of me that was like, I think like, my gut was like telling me you're going to regret this. Like, you've only been here a year and you're really just going to go back home now for the rest of your life. Like, you didn't even give it a proper chance. And I battled these two voices in my head of like, give it a chance and go back home for months. And so at first I told him, yep, I'm going to move back with you. And then after really sitting on it and being like, holy shit, no, you need to give this a chance. Like, you haven't even given it a proper chance. You've only put yourself out there with like two people. You need to try to make friends. You really need to try to do this. That's when I told him like, I think I'm going to stay. And also another thing that helped during this time is I did transition jobs. And so I was also kind of excited to try to start this new job in Austin and see where that took me. And around that time, this wasn't the only reason our relationship ended, but it was definitely part of it. It was a big part of it, was like, I was going to stay in Austin. He was going to move back. We didn't want to do long distance. I didn't think our relationship was strong enough at that point to do long distance. He kind of agreed with that. So we ended up breaking up after living in Austin together for like a little under a year. And I start this new job. And now he moves back home to Oregon. And now I am alone in this apartment that we moved in together, which was very weird. Like, if you've ever lived with someone and then they move out and then you're alone in it, it's very hard. It's like everything reminds you of the relationship. But alas, I was like, I'm going to get through this. It's going to be fine. And I do think we ended on pretty like civil terms where it wasn't like a heartbreak that like one person did something super fucked to the other. I mean, I was still very upset about it and I had to process it, but it wasn't like a holy shit, like you hurt me so bad. It was kind of like all right, we're just in two different places in life. You want to go home and I want to stay, and it's not going to work. So it wasn't like a horrible tumultuous breakup by any means. But now I am figuring out a life alone. I'm now single. I now live alone. Luckily, this new job I had started paid me a little bit more money. So I was able to kind of almost basically afford the rent for this place. But as scared as I was really fucking excited because I was like, holy shit, like the world is my oyster. Like, I really had this mindset flip where I was like, you can sit here in this apartment by yourself, single, and be really sad and mope about the fact that you really only know a couple people in the city and you don't really have a social life and you don't get invited to things. I was like, or you can just put your fucking ass out there because that's the only way you're going to be happy here. And I really wanted to be happy in Austin. So this is when I decided to start putting myself out there. Now, guys, I have to say, I know maybe from social media and stuff, it seems like, oh, like, you know, she's outgoing, she's social, like she's whatever. I did not used to be this way. I was a horribly shy child, so shy as a child that I would pee my pants every single day of school in like kindergarten and first grade because I was way too scared to ask the teacher to go to the bathroom. Like, that puts it into perspective. My mom told me, like, when I was a kid, if a stranger was like near us, like I couldn't even look at strangers. I couldn't make eye contact with my mom's friends. Like, I was not a social child. I kind of grew out of that in high school. I was definitely more social, but I was always the type of person, like I had my group and that was it. And I didn't really care about meeting other people. And I struggled to put myself out there, and I always would have the people I was comfortable with, which was always like 3, maybe 4 people. And that was always it. Like, I always kept my circle very small. Even in college, like my circle was pretty small. It was like my immediate close friends. And even though I was in a sorority a couple years, I still like look back on that and I'm like, damn, you really should have fucking put yourself out there more, bitch, and like been more upfront to people and like getting to know people. I was just always fairly closed off, and it wasn't because I didn't like people. It was just because like I was insecure and I was nervous and I didn't know how I was going to come across to people. So for me, this like part of my life in Austin was so transformative because I, for the first time, was forced to put myself out there as an adult and make adult friends and build connections that I'd never had to do before. Because in high school and in college, you're just like automatically around these people, and it's much easier to make friends because you're just in these groups with young people, and boom, there you go, you make friends. But in this situation, it's like, where do I fucking start here? And I want to make a whole ass episode about like specifically about making friends in Austin. But to just kind of briefly skim over this, what I did is, this is kind of around the time I started posting on social media, not as a content creator, but like intermittently, I would post every now and again. So like I made a video that was like, I just moved to Austin. I'm new to this city. Like if anyone else wants to, hang out and meet up, like let me know. And I actually like had girls DM me and be like, hey, I saw your video. Like I'd love to like grab coffee. And I did. Like I met my first few friends here literally through social media and just like went out with these girls. Didn't know them at all. And another thing I did, which I highly recommend, is maybe you don't know anyone in the city you just moved to, but the odds that you know someone who knows someone that lives in the city you moved to are really high. So for example, like I didn't know anyone here, but one of my friends from college had a friend that she knew from her hometown that had moved here, and she set us up. So one thing to think about is like you might know someone who knows someone, and then have them set up like a mutual friend date. And that's what I did. And that's how I met one of my closest friends the first year I moved here. She moved to London, unfortunately. But like my friend Jensen and I, we just met at a bar and we were like, hi. And we just started talking. And it was very weird for me because again, like I haven't really done this in my life, but I really pushed myself to like put myself out there, ask. And I think what helped me a lot is instead of sitting there and being like, I'm this and this and this and talking about myself, I was like, I'm just going to ask people a ton of questions and get to know them first, and then they can get to know me. And I think that helped me establish relationships in the beginning because people love being asked questions and talking about themselves. So that was kind of my strategy, was like when I feel awkward and when I feel like, oh fuck, what do I say? Ask another question, no matter how stupid it is. So those were kind of skills that I was testing in that phase of my life. But truly how I made friends was through mutuals, through friends of friends, through social media. Legit, like I would DM girls and be like, hey, I see you just moved to Austin too. Would you want to hang out sometime? And they would be like, either they wouldn't respond or they'd be like, yeah. And it is crazy how social media can do that. So unlike where I feel like a lot of people in Austin make friends through run clubs and social things, I didn't really go that route. I kind of went the route of like social media and then friends connecting us. And then luckily, after a while of living here, a handful of friends from college that graduated also moved here, which I started hanging out with them. And then I started getting more involved in like the fitness community here, which I feel like in most major cities, there's always like big fitness communities. So I started going to a yoga studio. I started running. I met one of my closest friends, Liv, literally sitting in yoga. She was like, oh my God, I think I like have seen your TikToks. And I was like, no way. And we just started talking, and I was like, you know what? Like, put your number in my phone, like let's do something sometime. And I think you just really have to not be afraid to not only just start the conversation, but also like do the follow-up of like, hey, wait, let me know if you ever want to grab a drink sometime, and give them your phone and be like, what's your Instagram? And those are things I started doing where I just be like, all right, you know what, what's your Instagram? Like and be honest about like, I just moved here and I know no one. That's what I did so many times. I would meet girls and be like, I'm not gonna lie, I just moved here, I know no one. Like I really am looking for new people to hang out with, and like if you'd ever want to hang out, like what's your Insta? And yeah, you kind of have to be a little vulnerable about it. Like just be real that like you just moved here and you're like, fuck. And so that's really kind of how it started for me. And the nice thing about living in a city like Austin is it seems like here everybody's looking to make friends. So like I would hang out with one person, and then we would run into someone who would be like, oh, I know this person through this, through college. And everyone is so weirdly interconnected because it's a fairly small city that slowly like friendships just started forming out of it. But I think the most important thing isn't just to like meet people out and be like, hi, I'm Taryn, so nice to meet you. Like hopefully we see each other around, but like actually get their Instagram, actually DM them, actually follow up, make time in your day to go on walks, go on coffee dates, and do things like that. Because that's actually how I started to like establish relationships with people. And you have to do a lot of trial and error. That's just part of making friends, especially as an adult. Is like there would be times where I'd go on a date with a girl and I'd be like, we didn't really vibe, and that's fine, and we've never hung out since. But you really have to like date. You have to fucking date girls. Like you need to date around girls or guys too. And see which ones are going to work for you as a friendship. Because I promise you, a lot of the girls I was hanging out with, not a lot, but a handful of the girls I met and hung out with when I first moved here, like we both kind of mutually agreed like we don't have that much in common. And one thing I'm not doing in my 20s is like being friends with people just to have friends. Like I want quality, strong friendships that mean something to me and we both care about each other. And there was, you know, people that I met when I first moved here that I was first like, oh, I just need friends, so I'm gonna hang out with this person. But then we're like, wait, we literally like have nothing in common. So that summer is when I was finding myself alone in Austin, making friends, and I slowly started to feel so much happier, you guys, because I truly think it's not about where you live, it's about the people that you have there. And I started forming these stronger friendships. I was dating a little bit in this time. This was my single era in Austin. I was dating around a bit. I met Rafa shortly after this. Like, I truly believe it's not necessarily where you live, it's the community that you have there. Like, I have a friend who lives in like a very random like Midwest state. And I was like, what is it like living there? And she was like, I mean, it's not the best state, but like I have a huge community of friends, family, whatever. And so I'm so happy. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, you don't need to, like, I would rather be happy with community of people that I love in Texas than like alone in New York. You know what I mean? So I really felt like I kind of started to build a community and started to have social plans here and there. And that it's crazy how much your perspective of a city changes once you do have that. And I'm so grateful looking back for the people that I've met and the relationships that I've been able to maintain, because it really, really helped me in that year of being like, I went from like, I want to go back home, what the fuck is going on here, to like, holy shit, I'm having the time of my life. Like, this is the funnest city ever. I'm going out. I'm meeting guys at the time. I'm like getting my fucking flirt on Rainy Street. I'm making friends. I'm meeting new people. Like for the first time in my life, I'm meeting like more diverse people, because I was so boxed in my hometown on who I hung out with that like I'd never hung out with these types of people before. I'm learning so many things. Like for example, I've made a couple friends in the last 2 years that are a lot older than me. They're like 10 plus years older than me. I have one friend who's 38 and like one friend who's 35. And like just even that, like being friends with older people has been so amazing for me, because it's like having almost like a little mentor and someone that like helps give me like more wise advice for my 25-year-old self. And like those are people I maybe would have never met if I stayed in my hometown. And another thing that I realized living here when I was living with my boyfriend is, you know, we kind of would go to our same spots. We'd get like a breakfast taco on Saturday, and maybe we had one restaurant we liked, but really I was just kind of sitting inside with him doing the same things. My life was just very like like it just had it was very predictable. My life was very predictable with him. And when I wasn't with him anymore, and now I'm meeting new people and I'm trying to have this social life, I had this like big desire to try new restaurants and try new things. And I tried like a rec league, and I would go to things that maybe I wouldn't have gone, like free concerts and things like that like I don't know if I would have done if I was just sitting inside with this relationship that like it was just most convenient for us to just chill on the couch and watch TV. So being, you know, single, meeting new people, like I really pushed myself to go to things that I probably wouldn't. So like random concerts and events, and like First Thursdays, which I know that's not random, like a lot of people go to that, but like things like that, like social events that definitely can give me a little bit of social anxiety. Like honestly, First Thursday, like that gives me social anxiety. Like it's very overstimulating, it's very overwhelming, but I would be like, nope, we're going. And I met people, I had fun. It was a great way at the time when I was single to meet single men. Like it was perfect. So if you move away and you're like, fuck, I'm so isolated and I feel like I'm not meeting anybody, like I promise you, push yourself to go to things that like you normally wouldn't, and put yourself out there. And it is so scary. Like there was days where I would legit walk in like shaking, but it was always worth it in the long run. And if you don't know what to do when you're talking to someone and you don't know how to approach them, start with obviously hi and introduce yourself, and then just go into questions. Just ask them questions. Oh my God, what are you doing? How did you hear about this? Oh, nice. And then that automatically leads into, where are you from? Oh my God, what is that state like? Like when you feel uncomfortable, just ask them another question. People love answering questions. So that's kind of like how I would go about doing it. But another thing I want to touch on, because I feel like we talked a bit about moving in with my man and friendship and like starting my life here and career, is the guilt that was always there, no matter how much fun I was having, that I had left my hometown. And it's still here. It's literally here. Like this morning I was having it. It's never going to go away. But as much fun as I was having, and as much as I was falling in love with Austin, there was always this feeling in the back of my mind, like, you should be home. You should be with your family. Like, you're missing your dad's birthday, you're missing your niece being born, you're missing these huge life events that are so important because, you know, my selfish ass wants to be here. I have parents that are like always like, when are you moving back? We miss you. When are you coming? And the way I've made it work truly throughout the last 3 years is I really try to set aside money and time to go home. Like I go home 4 times a year, and then I also will have my parents come here a couple times a year. But I also understand that like not everyone can necessarily do that, but it's just been something I've really prioritized because for me, like it's quality time. That's the most important. I can call them and I can talk to them and text them, but it's not the same as actually being in person. And the thing that I actually think is really great in our relationship since moving away is that when we do have that quality time, when I am home or when they are here, it is so much more special, I feel like, than it was when I lived there, which I know that's not the best thing to say, but like it's true. It's just like now it's so intentional that like when I'm with them, I'm not on my phone, I'm not complaining, I'm there, I'm present, I'm catching up with them, we're talking. And so it's actually been really, really good on our relationship in that sense. And it is crazy how much like space from your family and from your parents sometimes, if you do have the type of relationship where you guys fight sometimes and, you know, bicker and your relationship isn't that good, it is crazy how much sometimes distance can really, really help that. Not to say like my parents and I had like a bad relationship, but my mom and I would definitely get into it here and there. And I think moving away just like gave me this whole new appreciation for her because of being away from her and just having time with myself to reflect. And like I realized, holy shit, like this woman literally raised me. Like the shit that she's had to go through to like raise me to this point has been insane. And it's stuff I just didn't think about when I was home. I was just so in my own head and in my own world that I didn't really think about it. And then when I moved away, I was like, oh my God, like my mom is literally like the strongest, most amazing woman who has done everything to make this possible for me to be in Austin right now. That's literally the only reason I think I'm in Austin right now is because my parents pushed me to go to college. My parents helped me when I was in college. Like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. So I just had this whole new appreciation that I'm really grateful for that I don't think I would have, I mean, I probably would have had if I stayed there, but maybe not as soon. So that was really good. And I guess I have to say like the guilt moving away from family never goes away, but at the end of the day, it's your life that you're talking about. And as corny as it sounds, like you really only do get one. There really is only one 20s or 30s, like before you maybe have kids or are married or on to that next chapter that you can just like, you know, do things like this and pick up your life and move. And I mean, you can do that at any point in life, but for most people, I feel like it's the easiest to do it, obviously, when you're younger, right? And you're not like settled in one place. And you really do have to be selfish. And it's hard because there's times where I'm like, I should be there when my brother is having a fucking kid, but I can't be because I'm at a work thing in Austin. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't for moving here, I would not be where I am career-wise. I would not be where I am mentally. I would not have the relationships that I have now, like the friendships. I don't even know. I would probably be hanging out with the exact same people I was hanging out with at home and know nothing else other than that. Meeting the people that I've met here has been so transformative for me. I wouldn't have those people in my life. So many opportunities for me wouldn't have arose if it weren't for being here. And just like the independence and self-discovery that you experience, especially once I was alone here and having to figure out how I'm going to pay rent, how am I going to pay my electricity bill. Oh my God, especially when I was single, like figuring out how to get my car registered in Texas that normally I would maybe lean on my parents or my family for, or like put off at home. Like I had to do it. And it was so, so crucial for my maturity to just have to do responsibilities by myself, even though I fucking hate doing them. But like, it was so important for me. It made me grow up and get my shit together fairly, I guess, young, you could say. So I just want y'all to know, like, if you're scared to move away from home and you're scared to leave your family, I get it. I was absolutely terrified and I still feel bad about it every single day. Hence why I'm sure someday I might, move back to Oregon, maybe not forever, but temporarily, because I do want to be close to them. I don't want to be gone forever. I remind you again that like, you don't need to move away from your hometown to be happy. You don't need to move away from your hometown to feel like you're worth something. Sometimes staying back home, staying at home is where you're supposed to be. And that's just what's going to be best for you, whether it's because of being near family, that's your good support system, whether it's maybe career opportunities. So just remember that, because I feel like there's this narrative that like, oh my God, if you don't leave your hometown, you're like, oh my God, you're such a loser. Like that is not true. Not true at all. But I wanted to share my story with you guys about my experience, because I will say in my situation, it was fucking worth it, and it did make me happy, and I am so incredibly grateful for it. And I highly recommend moving to a city like Austin, because there are so many young people here. There's so many people are nice here. I don't get the same vibe from people when I go to New York and LA. I'm sorry, but I think people are nice here. I think a lot of people are transplants, so it's very easy. Not very easy, but it's fairly easy to make friends in comparison to other cities where like people already have all their friend groups established. Like I had a friend move to San Diego, and she said that like for the most part, all the young people very much like had their friend groups. They grew up there, they knew who they liked, and they weren't really open. Whereas like in Austin, so many people moved here in the last 5 to 10 years or even less, that like a lot of people are looking for friends, and there's a lot of people that even just moved here like recently, and they're also looking for friends. So it feels like it's a very welcoming community, and I feel like the fitness community too is just really welcoming, and I think that's a great place to start if you're struggling with the making friends portion, is within like, you know, the fitness community, or even just like a hobby community. Like my brother's he plays guitar, and he's like part of a little guitar band, and he's met people through that. Like truly you do have to put yourself out there, find hobbies, try new hobbies, and go to events where other people are, and go to little classes or join a rec league, things like that. Like it, and these all come back to just like putting yourself out there and forcing yourself to go, even if you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this right now. Just go up to someone, ask them a question, and the ball just starts rolling from there. Get their fucking Instagram, and then DM them on Instagram and be like, hey, I'm so glad we met. Let's go grab a drink. It's just crazy how every little decision you make in your life like affects everything. It's fucking crazy. But if I never made that little decision with my ex-boyfriend to move to Austin because he got a job here, I wouldn't have this like amazing support system that I have, these amazing friends that I care about and love so much that I'm probably going to be friends with forever. Crazy. Like every little decision is so interconnected. So yeah, and like reflecting back on these 3 years, first off, I literally have chills thinking about it, but I just feel so lucky that I have the community that I have, and the man that I have that I never would have met if I hadn't moved here. And not all to say that I'm going to be in Austin for the rest of my life. I don't know if I will. I don't think that I will. But if you're thinking about moving to a city, try it. And if it fails, that's okay. And if you feel lonely and you've tried to put yourself out there and it isn't working and you want to go home, that's also okay. It's okay to go home. It's okay to go back to where you started. There's not some like linear path that like you need to graduate and move to college and then you need to graduate and move to a new city and then go here and then go here and then go here. It's so different for everybody. And I almost went home. And if you feel like you need to go home and reset, go home and reset. And that's fine. And you're not a fucking loser because you are living at home. In fact, if I could give myself one piece of advice, actually, back when I graduated college, is I really wish I would have lived at home for a year and then moved to Austin. Obviously, I don't really regret anything, but I really wish I had lived at home for at least a year and saved money, because I moved here broke as shit, and it was not fun. It was not a good time. And your girl had $0 in savings for quite a long time, which is can be a very scary feeling to have when you have no money necessarily in savings, like for emergencies. So I really wish I would have lived at home for a year, stockpiled some money, and then moved. I would recommend that over just like balls to the walls moving the second you graduate. But again, I mean, it did work out in the end. And I feel like I didn't even touch on the career aspect of this because that was also such a big part of my move. But I will get into an episode more about like career stuff specifically and how that changed throughout the last few years and that kind of experience of jumping from jobs in different roles. But anywho, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Have an amazing week. Have a good Wednesday. And I love you guys. I'll see you on the next episode. And if you're going to ACL, I hope I see you there weekend 1. I can't fucking wait for Dua Lipa. And I love the Marias. Oh my God, in Chapel Roan. Fuck! It's gonna be so fun. Okay, bye guys. Love you.